The DPRK, or the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, is a nation well known for its hostilities and its tyrants. For years it has been a global problem that no one can fix because it holds a large number of nuclear bombs. To understand why North Korea is the way it is, you need to go back to when the divide started. The divide started at the end of the Second World War, with USA controlling the lower half and USSR controlling the upper half. The land was divided at the 38th parallel between Communist North and the Democratic South. Then came along the Cold War, which was a time period of mistrust between NATO and the Warsaw Pact. Along with the Cold War came a vicious cycle of proxy wars, from Vietnam to the Afghan War, and finally the Korean War. The Korean War started June 25, 1950, and was a brutal conflict between North Korea, China, and the Soviet Union, or otherwise known as the Communist Forces, versus South Korea, United States, United Kingdom, and United Nations, which are the anti-communist forces. The war was started with a North Korean invasion. South Korea then got help from main anti-communist powers and other countries from the UN to push the invaders back. The war was then going well for the anti-communist forces, until, that is, China stepped in. Adding to the horrific war was the hazardous landscape from mountains to seas of mud. Vehicles would get stuck in the mud, stopping supply routes, which would make this war longer than it needed to be. Eventually, both sides came to a ceasefire, but that did not mean the war was over. Even now, the tension and mistrust between the two sides builds up. In fact, just recently, North Korea performed a military drill where they fired around 500 shells into the ocean just over the border, with South Korea responding with 300 rounds fired. But apart from its military, how has a largely hated government stay in power, you ask? And the answer to that is propaganda. The North Korean government doesn't just use propaganda as a source of patriotism, but to help keep their people in line. North Korean propaganda usually shows the military to keep the people thinking that the government is strong while they are weak. In this video are some examples of North Korean propaganda.
The first place they take you is to the Pueblo, which is an American spy ship that they captured in the 60s during the Cold War, and they docked it in downtown Pyongyang, and the indoctrination starts.
They disguised the ship as a civil marine research ship, and they intruded into our territorial waters in 1968, but captured by our Navy.
They force you to sit there and watch this sort of indoctrination video about how the American imperialists are terrible and they're shitting on the peace-loving people of North Korea, and look how terrible America is, look how terrible Japan is, and how we got their ship and it shows that they were spying on us and how evil they are. Really incredibly anti-American.
The U.S. imperialists have long been eyeing for a chance for preemptive strike against the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, resulting to acts of espionage on the land, in the sky, and on the sea. This is Pueblo on the spy ship of the U.S. imperialist aggression forces captured by our seamen on January the 23rd, 1968. These are the crewmen of Pueblo. There were 83, including 6 officers. but one of them was killed at the time of capture as he attempted to resist.
These holes were made by splinters of a shell on our ship. So one of the U.S. soldiers ran to take weapon here, but he killed by splinters of a shell. So when we captured this ship, our 7 searching team jumped on this ship. So at that moment, the captain was sitting on this seat. So he was bending his back. Splinters passed above his head. So he was very lucky.
This is very freaky. On the way here, there's a big poster that says, "The way to peace is on the point of a bayonet." And you know, all the North Koreans are brought here, so you're sort of sitting there as the only Caucasian going, "Oh good," as everyone's staring at you with daggers. And you're just sitting there going, "Okay, great, I get it. There's going to be a lot more of this." They've just heard about how bad we are. So I don't know if they like us.